All right, thank you so much for coming to our webinar today. We are going to be talking about how to adjust our forms and green folders to capture more data. We can use this for building reports. Okay, so obviously when you first log into green folders, most of you are going to see your default forms. Now, my forms look a little different than yours, I'm sure, but it's pretty much the same. It's the place where all of your fields are located and organized. For those of you that use a title production software like Title Express or SoftPro or Streamline, to name a few, the data from these fields gets pulled from your title production software. So we refer to those as external fields. And today we're going to be talking about internal fields, the fields that we can edit and put in information directly from green folders. So let's go and look at where we can find the form builder. If we come up here to our menu, we have to be logged in as an administrator. We're going to see this configuration option. I'm going to click on that. Here is our configuration. We're going to go to the second group. Underneath says folder types. We're going to single click on that. Most of you are going to have one folder type. Each of those has their own set of configurations. So if you have multiple and you want to make changes to your multiple folder types, you would do this to each of them. But I'm just going to select the one I want, come up here to the configure layout button, and our form builder is going to open. Now, this looks almost identical to what we see when we open green folders. The only difference is we see this grid. Okay, and that's to help us lay out and organize our various fields. So notice we have our form properties here in the upper right. Okay, we have the name of that form. We have the width and the height, and that 816 by 1056 is a normal 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. So what I'm going to do is select the field. I'll click on this address field. And we have more options that pop up. We have the layout. This is exactly where it's located on the page, and we can lock it in place. I like doing that so I don't accidentally drag something somewhere. We have our field properties. So the name of the field. You can set a default value, which means whatever you type in there is going to be what shows up there first in the field. We can make it required. You can't save the folder unless you put something in this address field. We can have a variable. If I want to make it the assigned date that's going to be in this field, that's great. I can do that. If you come up here to this file number, that's what I do here in the file number. It's going to be the folder name. So whatever the folder name is, that's what's going to go in that field. Change the background color. I can change the foreground color, which is the font color. I can change the type of control that it is. It's currently a text box. I can enter text in there. So for an address field, you're going to use text because you want to use numbers and letters and that kind of stuff. You can change it to a combo box. Maybe I want a preset options in there. You can add items by coming down here to the accepted values. You can use a read-only box. No one can, it just shows you information. You can't change it. Numbers only box, a date time box, a date only box, check box, list box, hyperlinks. We use that a lot for email. You can just click on the hyperlink email and it'll open up your Outlook or whatever your email client is. Or websites. If you want to have a form that has commonly used websites, kind of quick reference, you can do that. Two choice checkbox. Generally, you're going to have those as yes and no, but you can change those values here. And the currency box just makes it a currency. So you have different controls you can use. You can change the font size that goes in the fields. You have your label property. Even though the field's called address, you can name it something different. You can name it property address. You can name it whatever you want. And then you can kind of change the orientation, centered, right, above, next to it, beneath it. My go-to is above and to the left. And then you can change, you can style the label of the field. So down here, we show our available fields. This is where we draw from. This is our pool that we can put into our form. Now, I want one that's not here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to close out of this. back to this screen. Instead of going to the configure layout, I'm going to double click on that folder type. And the fourth tab over is fields. This is where we can create new fields. So I'm going to press new. I'm going to create a new field. I'm just going to name it new field. My column name, I'm going to call it new field as well. When we create a new field, all it's really doing is going into the database and adding a column to store that data. So it's going to just drop itself right there at the bottom. Once I save it, it's going to alphabetize it. It's going to take me back to the screen. I'm going to go to the configure layout, and now it's alphabetized. I'm going to go find my new field and drop it here. Now, I talked about the grid. I like using the grid to organize. I don't like trying to use this X and Y and doing pixels and partial pixels. That's just too much. So what I can do, if I use the arrow keys, notice it follows that grid. That's jumping too far. I don't really want it to jump that far. If I come down here, I can make that grid smaller. A little more precise. I can put it more where I want it. I'm not really going to style this right now, just for this demonstration, but I'm going to now save. I'm going to close the configuration. Now, since I have a folder open, I'm going to hit refresh, and you're going to see that field appear here. I put the folder in edit mode. I'm going to put some information here. I'm going to save it. Now, if I come over here to my home screen, I'm going to have to log out first. Log out, log back in. This is now a field that I'm able to use in my home screen. Here it is, new field. I put information here. So think of your workflow. Think of how your forms are laid out. Doing this, you can add internal information. Like I said, this is an internal field. It won't pull from Streamline or SoftPro or any TPS you're using. But you can add new fields. A common use that I've seen a lot is they've created a folder alert text box, and they use that same field on all of their forms. That way, if they make the change on any forms, it reflects on all of these. They're mirrored. It's a mirrored field. And that way, if there's anything important, it goes in that folder alert. And they've also added that here on their home screen, so that they can quickly see any folder alerts, any important information that they need to see. It's there available to you. So think of different ways of how you can improve your workflow. Think of different ways you can simplify things. Add certain data you want to see. Things that normally you may have to go dig for. Hey, if you just put it in this folder, in this form one time, it could save you time. It could save you a few clicks. And that's what our goal is, to save you clicks. That saves you time. So I showed you the basics of how to adjust forms in order to gather more data and have it appear in your reports. If you have questions or need any additional help, I'm more than happy to connect with you and go through your specific questions and the specific fields you'd like to add. More than happy to do that. Just reach out and let me know. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you next time. Thank you.